Okay, so welcome everyone. And Jane, you had a question. Yeah, you wanted to start us with a
Yeah,
question.
so I was just wondering if there's anybody here who has not yet listened to one of our 6-week series, either by a replay or actually came in person to one of them. So Anna, Barbara, you haven't either? Okay, all good. That's why we're having this session, is to make sure that those people who weren't able to come, we realized that it was a Tuesday at noon, and that is maybe not the best time for everyone. So we really wanted to have a session for people to experience the work that we are bringing forward to help build sacred relationships. So we're glad you came. And what we really wanted to do, we had 30-minute sessions, and they're really great recordings. I encourage you to go back and to listen to them. They're on YouTube. And I'm assuming that everybody here is already on our newsletter, and we will add you to it. We've got your email, so you'll get the information about how to connect with us on YouTube. But what we really want to do tonight is to talk about 3 things. It's 3 habits for healthy relationships. And one of them is to be in our own power of presence. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We also had a 30-minute session about that. We're also talking about emotional intelligence. And we have a practice that Julie's going to lead us on tonight around that. And the third thing is talking about honest communication. And again, we're having a short practice on that. These are just practices to wet your whistle. We're really just starting. So all of these beautiful practices for building deeper relationships, they build on each other. So we start with something and then we deepen it. You practice it in your life. You come back, we talk about it, we tweak it together. You have a chance to practice with other women. And then as it integrates more deeply in your life, you start to see the result of it. And we keep building. There's so many different levels that we can take this to. So Julie, did you want to ask a question with the group?
Yeah. So, the topic is sacred relationships. And Jane and I had this real desire for other women to build the kind of friendship that we have, which is pretty unique. I have lots of friends for 40, 50 years, and they're close and they're intimate friends and they're wonderful. And I will call them soul sisters. And yet there was something about our relationship that up-leveled it, our capacity to always be honest, even if it stings a little, because we do it with love. So I'm curious, you're obviously interested in this topic. What was it about the topic? What was it about sacred relationship, or relationships in general, that drew you in? Is there a particular struggle? Is it just not finding other women to connect with in this way? Is it not deepening the relationship? Is it a little fear or anxiety about fully showing up with who you are, or a little anxiety about being 100% honest, or even receiving 100% honesty from someone? Because Jane, we can say, right, sometimes it's like, ouch. However, it comes from a place of love always. So receiving it, being with it, massaging it, looking at it, definitely is easier when love is the lead in all of that. So if you could share or raise your hand if there's a particular part of relationship, sacred relationship, that you find either challenging, difficult, or just really want to deepen. and learn a bit more. We would love to hear that. So any of you want to unmute yourselves? You know, what is it? What was the draw to sacred relationships? The topic for you? Yes, when I've been honest, most women don't like it. Right? Anyone else? Anna, you unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
I could only say that I find myself sometimes with the people that I most want to develop relationship with are the people that, you know, there's this tinge or sometimes much more than a tinge of envy or jealousy in that on my end. And it really gets in the way.
So you're having a sense of a little bit of envy or jealousy within you?
Yeah. And it was very unconscious for very long. And now it's just kind of really, I have to say, it's actually only really just recently come to the surface that I can zero in and see that that's happening. And I think that that's, yeah, keeps, you know, a distance, right?
Yeah, yeah. And especially when it's unconscious. Now that you can see it, you can work with it, right? But when it kind of sits underneath and it's the thing that kind of infiltrates your desire for connection, but oh, there's this little envy or jealousy in the way. So there are definitely practices that we can offer. And some of these today will really help you kind of navigate that a little better. So now we have an awareness. Now, how do we navigate that so it's not in the way? So it doesn't become the thing that stops us from having that deeper connection with someone. You know, and there's a level of sensitivity to you. You have a very fine and refined sensitivity. So I would imagine that when this arises, that could be very challenging for you, for someone who is exquisitely sensitive. Yeah. Yeah.
It's lots of breaks on.
Yeah. 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 So these practices help take some of the brakes off, right? We can work with what we can see. We can work with, as we discover things about ourselves, we can move with them rather than them become the stopping points or becoming the brakes. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, because jealousy and envy is definitely a wound that has been around for eons. And with women, you know, having to be put in the workforce because everything's become so expensive, the competition and the jealousy is really, and social media, especially for young women, you know, it really creates a tremendous amount of competition, jealousy, and envy. So yeah, I hear you. Thank you for sharing. Jane, you want to say anything to that?
I think the starting point, which we keep talking about, is to really come back home to yourself. And that's where the self-awareness will build about what is actually going on. We have to take a deeper look at ourselves. And as we do that, we start to see our own habits and patterns and where we can change that. And that takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes humility, right? This is what Julie and I are willing to do, this work together. And it is really hard for my ego to realize sometimes that, wow, you know, Julie's calling me out on something and I didn't even know it. And she can feel my energy is a bit off. And I have to I don't have to, I choose to see it first in myself, because I crave more depth. I crave to move beyond where I am. I want to step into my full potential. And I can't do that if I just keep doing the same thing, same old, same old. So it takes some courage and a commitment to just say, I want to live bigger. I want to have great relationships. And then going through the initial work of it is perhaps uncomfortable and takes time. And sometimes your mind doesn't get it and you're a bit of a muddle. And then it starts to ease and you start to say, ah, okay. And you're catching yourself more and more. And then the benefits of the relationship come forward. Yeah. So let me just,
Mahogany has a question, Jane. Hang on.
yeah.
Mahogany, you can certainly unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna answer your question. You were saying like what intrigued us about the sacred relationship title. Oh yeah, I was just going to answer that question. Is that fine now or
Of course, yeah.
okay, so the first thing for me is sorry, I can't have my camera on right now, so I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
But the one thing is like showing up 100% like as myself. I feel like, I do have good friendships, but I do kind of get a little anxiety when it comes to me having conflict or when I'm starting to feel like a little aggravated. And I always have this fear like people will eventually leave. It's a little bit more of an internal thing for me. And I want to break cycles from the things in the past. Like it seems like there was always this cycle in my friendships and dealing with sister wounds too. Like it seems like as soon as like we get close, everything's fine. Then all of a sudden the person just starts distancing. I ask them, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? They say no, but they're slowly fading away. So this has been happening, in my life for a while with certain people, and it's made me a little fearful to get close to people. So I just want to kind of do some searching.
And Mahogany, that piggybacks to what Anna was saying, right? If there's jealousy underneath and you're relating with someone and you're not talking about it, right? And it becomes the cesspool underneath the relationship. You're not building on a strong foundation. So Jane and I have agreements around our relationship. We can be 100% honest with each other 100% of the time.
Right.
And we've given each other permission to do that.
Right.
And when I can notice something that she may be unaware of, I know that I have 100% permission to say, Jane, I know you're saying this, but I'm feeling that. Can we kind of look at this?
Right. Right.
And so communication is really important, but there's a lot of fundamentals too. And what you're bringing to the relationship is key. And your awareness of what you're bringing. So for Anna to say like, oh, I'm have this new awareness that I have jealousy and that's kind of putting the brakes on me getting close to someone. That's a great awareness. But now what? Now what? Right? How does she navigate that? So building that self-awareness, not going through blame and shame around it, right? Jealousy is something that most people experience, whether consciously, unconsciously, whether minimally or maximally, right? There are times like, ooh, right? I just officiated a wedding this past weekend and a friend called me and said, I'm so jealous that you officiated their wedding and you couldn't officiate mine 10 years ago. And she just said it flat out, right? And it wasn't under the rug. And I'm like, if I would have, I could have. And she said, yeah, I know, but I'm still jealous, right? And it's a good friendship to be able to do that and to talk about it and navigate it. So the practices that we're going to be walking you through tonight that we really feel are 3 basic, right? And in sacred relationships and applicable to all relationships. You can bring this into work environment. You could bring it in how you relate with colleagues, coworkers, friends, people that you meet, your intimate relationships, and certainly they're key in keeping the health of a sacred relationship going.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing jealousy in, because it's an important one, right? Or this difficulty of trying to get close and people are being pushed away or disappearing.
Yes.
Right? They disappear and you're like, hey, what happened? I've had friends that I thought were really close, and all of a sudden communication stopped. I don't even know what happened.
Yes, that's what I'm just like want to figure out, figure out and try. And I love how you make jealousy and envy like a positive thing because, I can attest to being very like judgy with it in the past. And I've also been trying to like work on that too. Like they're human emotions and the fact that, you guys are so open about it. Like you said, your friend just came out right and just said, listen, I'm so jealous about this, but it's good that you have a good outlook on it.
And that's going to be healthy, right? We can
Yeah.
navigate with what we know, right? If we're pushing things down and pushing them aside, they become the brakes. They
Right.
are the brakes on the relationships and moving forward, getting closer, right? Because we're not talking about them. But when we can talk about them, we take the brakes off, we take the power away from the shadow that's
Yeah.
lurking in there and kind of sucking the energy from the relationship.
Mhm.
So thank you, Mahogany. Thank you so much for bringing that. And I would love for you all to kind of put in the chat what your struggle is or your attraction to this topic, right? Just so we have a sense of what brought you here. And I know for some it's your connection to Jane and I, and we love you for being here for that too. So thank you, thank you. So the first practice that we're going to do is called what we call a tune-in, right? And why is a tune-in important? Why is knowing what's going on inside of you important for relationships? Are any of you Brene Brown fans? Yeah? I love her. She's just, if you've never read any of her books or watched a podcast, she's just amazing. She makes everything that I believe in the spiritual world really practical. And she talked about relationships are never 50-50, that's a crock of crap. And I just laughed. She said, sometimes I come home and I got 20% left. And I say to my husband, babe, I only got 20. I need you to come up for 80. And he might say, I don't know if I have 80. I only have 70. So we might have 10% missing. But there's a lot of time we're picking the slack up for each other. And I think that's really important to know. And the tune in really gives you that information, right? Where am I in this time and space? Where am I energetically? What's my emotional state? What's happening in my physical body? So I know how I'm showing up, right? In relationship to someone else, how I'm showing up in the world. It's very, very important. It kind of gives you a gauge to what's happening. Would you imagine how important that is if we could all, even before we talked or set our day, that we just did a tune in like, oh, where am I? What am I feeling? What am I noticing? And there's a lot of information you can get there, intuitive information. Like your body will say, I need more water, or I need to move, or I need to eat more greens. I need to eat more veggies, right? You can get that information simply by using a tune-in. And this practice being so fundamental, not to overwhelm you, but a tune in throughout the day would be great. But even if you can tune in once a day, start your day, or if an important conversation is coming up, use the tune in, like land inside, notice, scan, and then you can bring more of yourself. Or you know what you're bringing or how much you're bringing, right? So I see some of you, I don't know if you're getting ready to go into the chat, but I would love to start this practice with you. So it'll take a few minutes. And if you're sharing in the chat, you can certainly finish that. Jane, I think there's someone in the waiting room.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, Shannon, the not feeling completely safe to show up as yourself. If you haven't listened to the recording of the mother-sister persecution wound, I highly suggest you do that, the unsafe part really is so deep rooted in the feminine psyche, and that it would be extraordinarily beneficial just to listen to that and get some.
And creating safety in relationships would be a really important one. We did a half hour on that as well.
Oh, Nancy, you do have a lot of love around you. You are so blessed. And I'm sure your marriage is a beautiful, sacred relationship, because I don't think you could settle for anything less. Right? And maintaining that. So these practices are not just about creating them, but it's navigating them, right? Relationships do this, right? And when you can bring the sacred in again and again, and you bring these practices in and again, it helps you move through and maintain that thread of connection and sacred connection. All right, so I would invite you all, if you have your cell phones near you, put them on mute, flip them over, don't look at the screen, because I really want you to bring all your attention to yourself. Right? The tune in is for you. Where are you in this time, space, moment? Right? And you're going to do like a physical scan. So you can close your eyes, and I always like to think I'm kind of turning my eyes inward, right? As if I was looking inside. And you're just taking a physical scan of your body, starting at the top of your head, right? Notice any tension in your face, your head, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your chest. And just gently scan. You're going down the body. What are you noticing in your belly? Your pelvis, your hips. Your legs, your feet, and you're not judging, you're not trying to fix it, you're simply noticing. And what do you notice when you tune into your physical body? What do you become aware of that you weren't necessarily aware of before you tuned in? And you're just taking note. And then give yourself a breath and just do a scan through your emotional body. What is your emotional state? What are you feeling in this moment? Are you feeling drained? Are you feeling curious and excited? Are you feeling tired? It's towards the end of the day. It's more from the energetic point, but sometimes you can have emotional fatigue as well. And really focus, really bring depth and time into this tune in. Right? Noticing physically, noticing emotionally, and then energetically. What's your energy level? Right? Staying inside, noticing what your energy level is. And it's a powerful, powerful practice because it really gives you a clearer understanding of just where you are in this moment, how you're showing up. So what am I noticing in my physical body? What am I noticing in my emotional body? Am I anxious, nervous, excited, joyful? What happens when I tune in? When I turn my eyes inward, when I turn my attention inward? And what is my energy level? And this practice, the more you practice it, the more you do it, it deepens. The information that you get from a simple tune-in, it deepens over time, right? What your body needs, what is kind of showing up emotionally that you may not even have had any awareness of before doing a check-in. I can't tell you how many times I do a tune-in and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know this was there. And it's surprising to me. Sometimes it brings me to tears.
And this is when we've practiced it for years already, that
Yeah.
we sometimes forget the power in the simplicity of this and how it can help us just to get to know ourselves. And then how do you bring it into relationship with somebody else? So we're starting off our practices really having you focus on yourself first, build this practice for you, and then try doing this with another. You can start that on your own. We're going to be doing this more in the offerings that we have coming forward, an opportunity for you guys to practice this more so that it becomes so common you don't forget, because there's such power in it.
And when we do a tune-in without this having to fix or having to do anything and just really being in the noticing of it, it really gives permission to what's underneath, right? Not really, and to really rise and come forward and to come into our awareness.
Mm.
And then we can decide, right? We can use our power to choose if we want to do something or not.
Mm.
Right? Oh, I'm feeling really drained. Like, oh, I maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to drink more water. Maybe I need to phone a friend. Maybe I need to whatever, right? But you'll get more accurate information from your body in a tune-in and kind of reattuning, keep going back and tuning in again, than you will from the habitual thinking mind, right? It really drops you down into your body, especially because you're doing that physical scan. You're becoming physically aware, emotionally aware, and then energetically aware.
And Jules, I just want to say something about, Anna, you talked about envy and jealousy, which are not the easiest of emotions. And when we can use this practice to meet ourselves where we are honestly, and know that there is anger in me, I'm feeling it, or, I'm actually, I have this sacred sister and I'm feeling competition, I'm comparing myself to her, right? And to allow that to just be and not sweep that to the side and shove it in a corner, which it then becomes a shadow. So meet yourself where you are. That's the starting point to opening up into more deeper sacred relationships.
It always starts with us, right? It starts here. What is the relationship that I have to myself that I can deepen, that I can then bring that depth and awareness in relationship to someone else, right? How do I navigate jealousy? How do I navigate feeling unsafe? How do I navigate competition, right? And how you navigate it is going to make all the difference. But we can't keep pushing it down and just moving what we think we're moving past it, right? Because it keeps dragging along, and it does become the brakes. So I'm curious, in that tune-in practice, was there anyone who had an awareness of something physically, emotionally, or energetically that they didn't have before? And Michelle, we do this, yes.
I must have known you were going to say that. Say my name.
Yes. I saw you.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I felt like this kind of calmness or this, and I noticed that in my mind, when I was thinking how to describe it, I described it as a flat line.
Mm.
And then I thought, oh, this is interesting. Like, you associate calm with flatlining. And so calm is not good. I mean, it was an interesting internal dialogue. And I also noticed like my neck and my shoulder have been hurting. And I'm thinking like, I'm over all the pain in the neck things that I've been experiencing, all the masculine side heavy lifting. But then I thought, well, if I'm classifying calmness as flatlining, maybe I'm not over it. Maybe I'm thinking, maybe I need to examine, like, am I addicted to the drama of things and I'm just not okay being calm with things? I'm like judging being calm. It's a total interesting little conversation I'm having.
It's fascinating to get that much information by just giving yourself a few moments, kind of where am I energetically, emotionally, and physically, right? That's a lot of information. And it's great because you can now revisit this like, wow, that's a lot of things to consider. Am I? Is it? Ooh. Does this relate or is it something else, right? So you start to open an inner dialogue, an inner exploration. What does this mean? Right? How does this play out? Why is this showing up? And the one thing, from years of training that I had in the body, mind, spirit connection is one thing to remember: the body never lies. It doesn't know how. So when we do this real check-in with our physical body and then the emotions, right, and the energy that our body's holding, there's a lot of rich information there. A lot of rich information. So thanks for that share, Michelle. It's a lot to consider, right? A lot in your awareness. Does anyone else have anything they want to share or say in relation to that?
Mahogany
David?
has her hand up. I don't know if that was from an old question or.
That was from an old question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, I love the tune in and I love the sharing with your partner or friend, soul sister, when you come to the table and you feel confident enough to say, I have 20% left. And that's all I have to give to this conversation or to this tonight or whatever. I think that's a real leap of faith in the relationship, and it avoids the other person wondering, well, where is she tonight? Why isn't she responding? There's none of that. You've come to the table. You've said, I'm happy to see you, but I only have 20% left. And I think that's an extraordinary thing. I love that you're able to take that leap and go forward for the evening or the week or whatever it is in that honest space. I just think that adds so much to the relationship and the potentiality of the relationship for the evening or the week or whatever. It's a great thing.
It is. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And Barbara, yes, I saw your tune in. You said some aches, not too bad, feeling encroached upon, having people in your space, right? And drained. Spiritually, energy field is wavery. So, you know, a good inquiry to go in is like, when I'm feeling this, right? How can I best support myself? Right? Maybe I need to go take out a nice walk in nature, because nature rejuvenates me. Right? Being outdoors and in nature rejuvenates me. So maybe that's something I need so I feel less drained or less encroached upon. And this is something I'm just offering it not as a knowing, but as a potential, oh, you know, I tuned in and this is what I'm feeling. And now in that inquiry or in that noticing, what would best support me? Right? What would best support me? So that is the first habit that we offer to you, a healthy habit for healthy relationships, right? It's a beautiful, the tune in is powerful practice. And at least do it once a day. If you can do it several times a day, then good on you. That would be extraordinary to practice it again and again. Kind of, where am I now in time and space? And environments are going to shift where you are, right? What you're feeling, noticing in your body and your emotions and in your energy level, right? Some people, you feel like when you're with them, all your energy is zapped, right? Or creates more tension in your body that you didn't, or you just have and you don't even have awareness of. So it's a really healthy practice. And if you don't have any questions, we would like to move to practice number 2. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to say or comment before we do that?
Yes, I do really quick.
Yes.
So you know how you mentioned about like how sometimes you can be around someone and feel emotionally sapped or whatever. How do you know? Because I went through that a couple times. And in your opinion, how do you know if it's something with them or it's something with yourself?
So always check in with yourself first, right? And it may be that you don't have a good boundary, right? An energetic boundary or even a relational boundary. It may be, most of the time, you know, when I'm feeling something, the only thing that I can change or fix, and not most of the time, all of the time, is something that's happening for me. Right?
Yes.
So how do we know if it's them or me? I would say 99.9%. There's going to be something about you that's happening that needs your attention.
Okay.
in
Thank
my experience anyway. Does everyone agree? I mean, and I love how Jane said her friend says if when you're pointing the finger, notice that there's 3 pointing back at you, right? It's
Oh,
usually
wow.
something within ourselves that needs attention.
And it's a training of yourself to remember that whenever we want to say, oh, they're driving me crazy or something about them, it's bring it back to yourself. Anyway, we'll work more on those sorts of things when we do further practices.
So the next one we're going to go into is for honest communication is the I statements. Anyone familiar with them? Yes, Nancy? Michelle is raising her hand. Barbara? Yeah, Shar? So I statements are extraordinarily beneficial in any relationship, because when you say you this and you that, it all instantly puts the other person in defense mode, right? Like you're blaming them, you're pointing out their deficit. When I was at the ashram in January and one of the teachings of Osho, the woman was saying that this Osho teaching, when you expect someone to change, and Mahogany, this can help you with your question, it's like a personal, violent attack against them. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. Did my brain actually hear that right? When you expect someone to change, it is like a personal, violent attack against them. I was like, holy crap. I have spent so many years wanting, particularly my older son, to change, because I know if he could change, he could be a better person for me. Right? So he could rearrange himself so I feel better. And to think that that might have been experienced as a personal attack against him made me weep for days. Like, wow, that is the last thing a mother wants to have her child feel, like they are being violently or, personally attacked. So that was a huge wake up for me. And I've been using I statements for many, many years, but there's always this way of up leveling, right? Always way of seeing it in a greater light, a bigger light. So what are the benefits of I statements, right? It takes away blame and shame, right? You're not pointing finger, you're not saying this is your fault, right? It helps you express your feelings and needs without sounding accusatory, right? It allows you to take responsibility for your feelings rather than the responsibility is for someone else to make you feel something, right? I'm feeling this. It's not about you. It keeps the conversation healthy and moving in the direction that you want it to be. You want it to be a healthy conversation. You want it to be something that's helpful, not hurtful, right? It removes barriers, right? As soon as I point the finger and I'm starting to blame someone for how I'm feeling, that's creating a barrier, that's creating tension and a desire for that person to kind of defend themselves. And it just improves the overall communication, right? When I can just say, hey, I'm feeling this, not that you're doing this that's making me feel this, it changes everything. So take a minute and I want you to think about what is the thing you hear yourself saying often? Whether it's, oh, I'm always picking up after you. You're always leaving piles here and piles there. I've asked you a gazillion times not to do this or not to do that. What is the thing, whether you're saying it to your children, whether you're saying it to your significant other, partner, coworker, right? I know for me, I would always say, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. Right? How many times do I have to say the same thing? You never listen. I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. Right? That was a big one for me. So type some of those things in the chat. I'd love to know, what are the statements that you find yourself saying again and again? Nobody listens. You're not listening. You don't hear me. I'm so frustrated. Right? What are the things you keep saying? Right? I don't think you really care about me. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't be doing this. What are some other really big ones? How many times do I have to ask you? Do you keep forgetting? I don't want to have to remind you all the time. You know, so they're the problem. What they're doing or what they're not doing is the problem. Why am I the one who is always, yep, yep. Why am I the one who is always? Big one for me. I would say to my husband, I don't want to have to keep telling you. You need to take responsibility. You need to figure it out. Right? Why do I have to keep telling you? I feel like I'm your mother. Until I realized that I was choosing to do that. I didn't fix the statement into the I. And when I started to do that, things started to shift. And so what does an I statement sound like, right? I'm really tired of being the someone that gets everything done around here. And I need some help. It's very different. Can you feel even the energy of that? Right? I'm really drained and exhausted. I need help here. It's exhausting to have to say, can you take out the trash every Tuesday? I really don't want that job. Is there something we can do here? Right? And the I statement really neutralizes and gives room and space for conversation. So what are some of them? I know Anna shared hers. Why am I the one who is always? Does anybody else have one? Come on, I'm sure there's juicy ones out there. Louisa, Shannon, you have a statement that you say a lot like, oh, oh yeah, you're overwhelming me, right? You're overwhelming me. That's a good one. Yep. A big one for me years ago was, you always make me feel unimportant, like I'm not important enough. And really what I wanted to say is like, I really like when a gift is bought that has a lot of thought and consideration in it. That's very different than feel unimportant. And I was equating, the value of the connection based on what gift showed up for Christmas or my birthday, right? But I made it the other's problem, and it really was my problem. And I, like for you, Michelle, too, you have this aha, like all of a sudden I had to start looking at that, like, well, why am I feeling unimportant? What is it about me that I'm bringing to the relationship that makes me feel unimportant? So what are some other ones? We have, you're overwhelming me. Why am I the one who always? Come on. Jane, you have one?
Why is it that I'm always planning the food in the family? Why am I always the one who's going and doing the grocery shopping?
Yep. So Anna, for why am I the one who is always, right? The I statement, do you want to take a little stab at it? And you don't have to if you don't want to. You'd have to unmute yourself though. I can't hear you. Looks like you're
I
frozen.
want
There
for
you go.
you to be free, but I also have to say that I really need some support in this.
So an I statement would be just you in the box of the I statement. So try to focus a little bit more, kind of trim it down just to you, what you're feeling and what you want. How can you trim that back a little bit?
I'd like to speak with you about what I need in order to feel more equal in this relationship.
So even if we pared that down a little bit more, right? I would like to feel more equal in this relationship. Even I'm feeling unequal in this relationship. You know, and then there's mirroring dialogue where the person listening would say, I hear that you're feeling unequal in the relationship. Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
And can you feel the energy of it, right? Because the person who's hurt is feeling heard. The person that's listening is not feeling attacked. And there's so much more space for healthy, honest communication. When the person is not feeling attacked, the listener, they start to turn their eyes inward. But when they feel like the fingers are being pointed at them and they're feeling poked by it and attacked by that, they want to put up the defense. They're really not hearing you. And they're certainly not meeting you where you are, right? I'm feeling unequal in this relationship. Whether it be working relationship, whether it be a friendship relationship, whether it be an intimate relationship, you know, I'm feeling out of balance. I feel like I need ... right? And there are sneaky ways the I statements can come in that aren't particularly clean, right? And what do I mean by that? Like, you could say something like, you never help me clean the house and it's causing me to feel frustrated. I'm feeling really frustrated because you never helped me clean the house. So that's kind of like a disguised I statement. You're still saying something about the other person, that they're not doing their fair share. Where when we speak clearly an I statement, it's everything is about, I'm feeling this, I need this. Where the you, yeah.
I just like to add that we are taking these practices in little bite-sized pieces.
Mhm.
If you go home and start practicing these things and keep doing it without knowing what's the next step. Okay, I did that, but what do I do about it? Just try to get that first step happening.
Yeah.
So go practice your I statements for yourself and then start to use it with another. And you can tell them, I am practicing. I've learned that this is important, using I statements so that I can own what's going on for me. And I'd like to practice that. You can make a sacred agreement with someone and say, would you allow me to practice this with you, or would you like to practice it with me? And just do that. And I trust that, okay, one thing is that we're going to be taking it further, but also trust that your own being, your own higher self is going to take you to the next level as you consolidate and integrate this simple practice in yourself. It's trusting in the simplicity of the process. Don't go too far ahead. And don't notice if your mind say, okay, so yeah, okay, so I do this, then what? Right? That's the mind taking you out again so that you don't do the simple, important work that we're asking you to do.
And, you know, as simple as it is and sounds to do an I statement, to leave everyone else out of the equation, it's not typically how we're entrained to dialogue, right? It's you, it's me, it's me, it's you, it's us, right? But the I statement is a powerful, powerful practice in clear, honest communication. And I just wanted to talk a little bit, Jane, before we go on to the next one. Shannon's, you are overwhelming me, right? As opposed to, I am overwhelmed by the chaos in the house. I'm overwhelmed by the loud noises. I'm overwhelmed by how much responsibility is put on my plate. I'm overwhelmed by the many things that are being asked of me, right? I am overwhelmed.
And when we don't do that, you can imagine what happens, right? Instead, you feel the overwhelm, you haven't spoken about it, and then it will come out in snippets, you know, against someone. You explode because you're in this state of overwhelm. And if anybody throws anything more into your basket, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So we bypass that negativity when we own what is happening inside of us. Come back to yourself. Rule number 1. And we've just given you 2 practices to do that.
And Louisa, for yours, you don't respect the things I do, would be I feel disrespected. And it doesn't have to be followed up with every time you blah, blah, blah. I feel disrespected, and let that person sit with their sense of how, or their sense of responsibility, how they may be contributing to that. But you're not pointing the figure. I'm feeling disrespected. Right? Or I feel like every time I ask for something, it falls on deaf ears. That's a general. It's not, oh, am I not hearing her when she asks for something?
And Julie, I think it's also important that, you know, when you're starting these basic practices and you're making an agreement with somebody to play with, to learn together, that you don't have to then go into the other person being defensive and saying, oh, well, you know, I don't know what's going on or why it's like that. So you don't want to get into that kind of a dialogue. Just at the beginning, just stay in your lane. You will always stay in your lane. Know what you're feeling and just state it, and you don't need to do anything more about it. Build that muscle.
Yeah. And if I could just add a little bow to the end of that, be aware of your energy and your tone.
Yeah.
Because that is equally as important as your I statement. All right, we're trying to squeeze in these 3 important practices for you all, and Jane is going to lead the next one for us. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end. And we're going to move on to our 3rd healthy habit for healthy relationships.
Yeah. Okay. So this practice is really an awareness practice. I'm going to share with you a demonstration so that you can see when I'm in 2 different states, how I come across. And your job is to receive me and sense how you feel towards me when I am in, let's call it state A or state B. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to go into a practice with another woman and do the same thing. Okay, so you have a chance to interact together. So I'll start with the demonstration, okay? And what I do is I'm going to speak about what happened in my day so far. And that's the control, so that you can see I'm speaking about the same thing. And what's the difference when I speak about it when I'm in state A or when I'm in state B? How do you feel differently towards me? Okay. So this morning I woke up, I was at my sister's place on a air mattress in her bedroom, and I was thinking, had a late night, was at a wedding the night before, and I really wanted to sleep a lot longer. I wanted to sleep at least another hour longer, and yet I knew I had to get up because I wanted to have a little bit of time with my sister. We were driving off by 12 o'clock noon to get back to Ottawa, and I just had to get up, so I did. And then we went out and found some coffee, and my daughter got up, and the day rolled forward pretty fast. All right, so that's state A. Now I'm going to go into another state, and I want you to notice any difference if you sense it. So waking up this morning, I was very aware of how wonderful it was to feel on this big spacious mattress and being in my sister's space. I don't get a chance to see her so often. It was really nice not to have high heel shoes on and just enjoy the comfort of no shoes on my feet. And I was thinking how nice, we're going to go out, walk down the street in downtown Toronto. We're going to go get some coffee and figure out what we want to do to have some food and just hang out together. You have some really nice time chatting and catching up. Life just goes so fast, and it was really special to be there. I always love to be at my sister's place. It's like a hotel, and she's such a kind, loving person. Okay, so I'd like to hear from you. You can put it in the chat, or maybe one or two of you can just mention, what did you notice about me and how you felt towards me when I was in state A or state B? You could talk about what qualities that you see in me. You know, what am I like when I'm in state A? What am I like when I'm in state B? B had more gratitude. Yep.
Anna, you're unmuted. Did you want to share something? No?
Did you enjoy Jane in state A or Jane in state B more? Who would you like to hang out with more?
Jane in state B. I wanted to know more. It felt more like you were present, like you were, like you were present in your life when you explained that one. It felt more like I wanted to know more what you did, what it was like on the street even.
Okay, so what was I like in state A, Nancy?
It felt it felt like me when I get up in the morning, like, okay, you know, like it just kind of dialogue in your head. That's what it seemed like to me.
All right, thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, Mahogany said a little like a ramble. Yeah, it was like you were just rambling. Blah, 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 blah. I always say it's like talking a lot about nothing. That's kind of what it feels like, right?
And Shannon, it's state B, she's more drawn to me. Okay. Pao, I think it's about being aware that moments are unique and can be unrepeatable. So looking at them with gratitude instead of complaint. Okay, so are we talking about state B there, Pao?
Ownership in B, said Anna.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so what I want to share with you is what was I actually doing to get into those states. So in state A, I'm in this state where I'm in this energy space above my head, and I'm thinking, it's full of thoughts, right? I'm thinking, and often we are in a state of worry, or we're overthinking. And what comes out is this rambling, this lots of talking, or a listing of all of the things. I was talking about everything that was going on, and it's just, it can be so boring, and people tune out. They're not interested to hear that. They don't feel connected to me because I'm not connected to me. I'm in a space above my head up here, thinking, overthinking, worry. I'm not connected to my body. So how the hell can I connect to somebody else? And in state B,
But Jane, I just want to come in here for 1 second. When you were in the state A, I was just kind of, my energy, like I was really aware of my energy in listening to you, was just kind of like, okay. And then when you moved into B, I felt more joy running through my system. Like, oh, okay, now you have my attention. Now this is, now we're talking kind of deal. I just felt like this uplift energetically in me. So I think someone was saying earlier, I think it was you, Mahogany, about feeling drained, right? Sometimes it's draining to hear people ramble on, and they're just spending all their time in their head, and there's no, it's just blah, 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 blah. And I say, I'm talking a lot about nothing, right? Where I paid a lot more attention. So this practice that Jane is going to do, it's not just about feeling more connected to her. It's her being connected to her, me feeling connected to her, her feeling more joyful, me feeling more joyful, and no one's going to be drained.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's this whole lifting up in conversation.
Right. So the trick when I was in state B is I was bringing all my energy inside my body and down into my womb space. And so I'd like you to do that with me just now so that you can feel that, right? Just to close your eyes for a minute and bring all your attention in, back, and down, and take up the space in your womb space. It's about 3 inches below your belly button. And you're there if you can feel more of a stillness. And if it's your first time doing this, just try the best that you can. There are tricks to help you move into this space. If you can't feel it just yet, that's okay. Just notice without judgment. What does it feel like when you bring your energy in and down into your womb space? This is your ability to anchor into safety. We feel more safe and trusting in our own words that are going to come out of our mouth. And now I'd like you to contrast that, opening your eyes, and I want you to put your energy up above your head into this energetic space and start thinking a lot. Just what do I have to do next today? Oh, and after that, I have to do this, and then this, and then this. Go to that overthinking mind, and worrying about something is also a really good way to get into that. And just do that for a second. And then you just think about what am I going to say? It's like you're already in this frantic state. And you can imagine the words that are going to come out of your mouth when you're in that state. Okay, so that's the trick. Okay, we're in this we call it head bubble, this space above our head, and womb space. So now what I'd like you to do is to give you the opportunity to practice this. And I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and you will have an opportunity with one other woman to do exactly what I just did. So the how we're going to set it up is that the person with the shortest hair is going to go first.
Oh, Jane, there's 3 people that don't have their,
Yeah. So the people who do not have their videos on, if you could put your video on, that would be great, because we need to see each other for this practice. If there is a challenge with you doing so, you can still go in. Julie, what do you think? We have them in as a third person observing, or just using the voice to hear? They can hear the experience. They can still experience the tone of voice and hear each other. That's possible.
yeah.
So we're going to do a lucky dip of when I put you into the breakout rooms, it's going to automatically put you in. So, okay, we've got a few people coming on with their photos, their videos. Okay, so here's what we're going to ask you to do. The person with the shortest hair can go first. And if your video's off, let's say the person with the video on is going to go first. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is you're going to have one person A, the other person is B. Person A goes first. I want you to get into the energetic space of being up above your head. Okay. In your head bubble. I want you to overthink and worry. And I want you to get in that state and know that you're there before you start speaking about your day. And just explain what happened today. You got 2 minutes to talk to, okay? And person B job is to receive you and just notice how they are feeling towards you in that state. And then we'll move to person B. We'll switch over, and that person gets a chance to get into the energetic state of their head bubble, really connect to that overthinking and worry. And then I want you to speak as soon as you're ready. You feel that you've anchored into that energy. Then I want you to speak for 2 minutes about your day. And then I'm going to send a message to all the breakout rooms. You'll see a little blue message at the top. I'll tell you when to switch. The instructions will come through. We're going to go to person A now, being able to connect with your womb space as best as you can. You're just learning the practice. Just try it as best as you can. Close your eyes, bring your energy down, feel that space in your body, the calmness that comes with that, safety, and then begin to speak once you've connected. You're going to speak about your day. And then person B will get a chance to do the same thing. And the last step is I'm going to give you 4 minutes together to give each other feedback. I'll send the instructions. Each person's going to have 2 minutes to give feedback. Person A will start. You can give a feedback to the person, your partner, letting them know, how did I feel towards you when you were in your head bubble? And how did I feel towards you when you were in your womb space? What did I notice? That's honest feedback. And then person B will have the chance to do that for you.
And Jane, the question that they're going to go in with, though, is relating to relationships, right?
No, we're just going to talk about the day, because this is just a practice.
Okay. And I put something in the chat that I shouldn't have.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just going to get used to sensing this. It's an awareness exercise. What happens when you speak from your head bubble and what happens when you speak from your womb space? All right. Any questions on the instructions? before we go in. And Julie, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to drop into one of the groups, Julie, because we've got an odd number.
We have 10 people on the call, so it should be 8. Should be 4 rooms. 2, 4, 6.
Oh yeah, there are 8. Okay.
Powell, she dropped off, I believe.
Okay.
And Elizabeth, I see that you're on the phone, the 908 number. Will you be able to unmute yourself and talk?
Yes, I can talk. I'm
Yay.
listening.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Everybody ready? Here we go. Okay, Julie, you can go pop into different rooms if you want. And just be a fly on the wall. Just tell them you're just coming to observe. And I'm going to do the broadcasting of messages.
Okay. Do we pause the recording here?
No, keep it all going.
Hear it.
Okay,
All
so
right, so
for those of you who are listening to the recording, we just paused it while people went into their rooms to have this practice, and just to reiterate that this work is done best when we're together and not by replay, because this is the work that we're doing. We're going into breakout rooms and we're actually doing the practices so that you have the experience of it. And that helps you to integrate it much more. So you can hear our summary of it, everyone on the replay. And I just would like to ask those of you, a few of you, to share anything that feels really important that you learned about this practice when you actually went in. What was the feedback that you gave each other? Who would like to raise their hand and unmute? And maybe the others can pop it into the chat. Who wants to share what they experienced by doing that practice? How did you feel towards your partner when she was in womb space or head bubble?
Mahogany, go ahead and unmute yourself.
We can see you. Yay.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. So yes, me and Michelle, we were together, and I love Michelle's feedback as well. For me specifically, when she said when I was speaking from my head, my voice was higher pitched, and when I was speaking from my womb, my voice was much deeper, and what I said was more meaningful.
Yeah.
Also, she said too that for the first time when I was speaking from my head, it made her feel anxious. And we also connected on that part too, because I was feeling anxious when I was speaking from my head. I had like no idea like what I was going to say. And I was just telling her that shows that energy can kind of transfer, because she was picking up, like she was anxious herself. And I was also feeling anxious when I was explaining it from my head. And for her, definitely for her first one, she was like, it was just more of her talking. The feelings weren't in there, but then from her womb space, she was like doing more feelings. So at first she was like, I didn't get everything done. And then she was just like, no, I did get some stuff done today. So it was just more gratitude in there. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And it's when you're doing it intentionally, like when you're trying to do it intentionally, like ramble instead of just naturally rambling. So yeah.
But we do that. The
Yes.
habitual is from the head. You know, that's how we relate so many times. But when we drop down, right, and the tune in helps us do that too, because we know what's going on. We're acclimating ourselves to what's really happening. The conversations change, the quality of our words, the energetic connection, right, to ourselves, to the other person we're conversing with, everything starts to shift, right? If I popped into this call in my headspace, I would be having a very different dialogue here. But when I drop down into my womb space, I see you, I light up, like I energetically feel uplifted. My words are coming more from my heart and from my wisdom than this shooting, spewing, right, habitual way of just speaking. And it's a great, powerful practice. And it really does shift
Yeah.
the depth of connection.
Yeah, so let's just sum up. Is there anybody else? Mahogany, that was a great share. Thank you. I love the, I was high pitched and that associated with anxiety. And then the deeper tone is our natural tone. So when you notice yourself in a higher tone, remember, am I in my head bubble? Or when you're just speaking more grounded, more connected to the earth, your tone is much more natural and it's calm. And then from that space, we don't even have to know, like I notice for myself, I rehearse what do I need to say? What do I need to say? Or I plan it. But when we're in this space of being in our womb space, the words come naturally. And we have to learn to practice that, because when you first start, your mind's going to go, I'm not sure I believe this. So it's practice. But when we are in our womb space, people feel our authenticity. They feel our connection to ourself. And because we're connected to ourself, then the other person feels connected to you. People believe you more and they trust you more when you're in your womb space. Those are big things.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do, right? We're talking about relationships and building deeper connection. And all you had to do was change your focus from your head bubble to your womb space. That's it.
Michelle had her hand up. I think she wanted to kind of offer some of her experience, because you were paired up with Mahogany, yes?
I was. And I just want to say, Jane and Julie, I mean, I'm friends with Julie. I've been doing this work for quite some time, but this was such a powerful exercise. I've never seen it like side by side like this. And I've been doing this for a long time. And it was so powerful to have that experience with Mahogany and see it being done like from the head space and from the womb space. It was such a glaring difference. Like the headspace felt like a bad date when you're, you know what I mean? Like when you can't think of what to say,
Right.
and you're like, what do I say? And how am I connecting with this person? But from the womb space, like I was instantly connected to Mahogany, and I was like, oh, I want to get to know her more. So I just want to say this was really, really powerful. Thanks for putting this exercise together like that.
Thank you, Michelle, for your great feedback and your noticing of, the powerful difference between those two states. The more you practice this, you start to see it more, and then you start to realize, oh my God, the majority of the planet is in their head bubble. So does anyone else have any comments to share? Elizabeth, we can't see your hand, but I know you're there. Shannon, you have anything from your experience? Or Anna?
Shar was a little challenged. Her partner couldn't unmute, so we were watching body language.
Yeah. So Shar, you're welcome. Anyone else want to share their experience? Yeah.
Sure. So I was with Nancy, and when we were in the headspace, we felt like we both had like an emotional hook that we're kind of both sucked into each other's story a little bit. But then when we dropped into the womb space, it was like just the gratitude I was able to experience from her story just shifted me into just my own. It's just like a contagious feeling. It's really beautiful.
Beautiful. Nice.
Nancy, you wanted to share?
Well, it was this, it's interesting because I had never felt, I've done this before, but I've never felt that real or been aware of she and I had this when we were in our head bubbles, we were like emotionally hooked. But when we dropped into our womb space, it's like we were soul sisters. I mean, it was like we were really listening with all of us, not just emotionality, which I had never seen that before, exactly like that. So it was very fun to see.
And, Nancy, how draining it is, right? To be emotionally hooked into stories.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
draining.
Yeah, and it's a waste of time, actually. I'm sorry, but it's like a waste of energy. So
Thanks, Nancy. I'm wondering if there's anybody who didn't feel much from this experience, and that's okay too. Is there somebody who says, I don't know if I really got it?
I'd love to hear from Elizabeth, and I guess she was paired up with Anna. And that I'm wondering if that had any challenge not being able to see her.
Mhm.
And was there any noticing with not being able to see her? Because in the other room, we had not being able to actually hear her and making kind of energetic noticings.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me and Anna, it was kind of weird because me and her, we had almost the same story, and you know what? We're even close and today, and we were like in the same situation, and while she was saying that it was almost the same, but I also noticed something that by listening to myself, I just seen it like, oh my God, it's only one story, but there's two feelings. Like when it's in my head, it even annoy myself. But then when it's from my womb, it's give me peace and gratitude. And I was like, it was a day that could be annoying, but then also it was so joyful.
Interesting. So your whole emotional state around your story shifted from this annoying in the head bubble to oh, I could actually even enjoy this when I dropped into it. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. And Anna, for you?
so yeah, I wasn't able to see Elizabeth, but there was something that I noticed, and also we all reflected upon it. We used a different word when Jane brought her story, where I think somebody had said gratitude. And so there's this element of positivity in the second version that, yeah, because I felt I was really bringing my story in the same way. I felt like it wasn't, I didn't feel any different.
So you didn't notice a difference when you were speaking from those two different places, or you didn't notice a difference as the listener, or both?
As a listener, I could detect that there was a shift, and that was because of the way that the story was brought. As far as myself, when I, was focusing on the different, am I in my head or am I in my womb? It was actually, I'm really tired right now. So just physically, it was kind of hard, I think, to drop into the womb. And I wondered if it wasn't just, oh, I'm telling this really flat story, as opposed to that, that nervous kind of thing, right? Keeps you up also in a way, right? When you're speaking just out of your head.
Yeah, a great noticing. And it is a practice, right, that we have to keep trying. So all of you, I would encourage to try this at least once a day in the next week, and just with your own awareness, what difference is it making when I drop into my womb space and speak from there? And maybe part of your noticing this next week is just, where am I? Am I in my head or am I in my womb space? Even if you do that, that's huge. Just to notice, where am I speaking from? And if you want to move it into intentionally, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with somebody I really care for. And we practice these practices with someone we feel comfortable with first. And really get comfortable with that before we take it out into the world with others. So hone your skills in a safe space. And then take it out and see whether it makes a difference. And you don't have to tell somebody, I'm practicing this, you just do it. But if you have somebody sacred that you want to build a sacred relationship with, or a special relationship, and you have an agreement that we're going to practice these things, then you can do that with intentionality and let them know what you're actually practicing. So just the important thing I want to leave you with is that when you are in your womb space, you create that connection with yourself first, so that others feel connected to you. And the magic begins for creating more trust, deeper connection, more authenticity, more vulnerability. All of that is possible because you're creating this special sacred space by being in your womb space and having the agreement with someone to practice that together.
And what I really loved about listening to your experiences, both in the tune in and in the womb space, was the realizations that you had. Like, for some of us, we've done this a gazillion times and it never gets old. It always deepens, and you learn more about who you are, what you're bringing, right? And that's so important when we're relating to other people, because it's authentic, it's real. Where am I right now? What's happening? Oh, when I'm here, I'm anxious. I'm just spewing words. I'm just saying things, right? And when I'm here, I have a landing place. I have more available to me. I could feel my heart. I could feel my own presence. And when I can feel me, I can feel you. And that develops depth and deepens connection, right?
So let's just take a moment we've been going through 3 practices, and we've also just gone through 6-week series, all of which are available to you to look at. And just think about, if you had these practices a year ago, how would that have changed your relationships?
How would that change your life, right? What would change in your life? Your ability to speak from this centered, rich place of your being. Right? The barriers of jealousy, envy, competition, right? Not feeling safe in the world. All of that starts to shift because your awareness deepens, your presence is being built, and your ability to bring that to how you relate to others, everything changes, right? And your entire life is built on relationships, starting with the relationship with yourself, right? Knowing yourself on the deepest, most intimate level. And that's what we really are wanting to build a community around. And so we had these 6 weeks, and then we put in this bonus call, and now we're offering a full day to do this. And imagine doing this for 7.5 hours together, right? It really enriches your awareness, and it gets your in this embodied state of like, oh, now I get it. Now I get when I do this versus when I do this. Now I have a deeper understanding. Now I'm more curious. Now I have tools, right, that I can actually bring in throughout my day and start using them and deepening whatever sacred relationships you already have, or building the ones that you want.
Yeah. So the question is really that we want to pose to you is, are you done with negative and judgmental small talk? You know, what's going on in your relationships that you want to shift? Are you done with feeling scattered and not feeling connected deeply enough, not finding the right words, not feeling fulfilled in your relationships?
Shutting down when you feel triggered by someone or something, right? The whole system shuts down around that if that's the habitual. Right? There's so many ways that we move unconsciously. And this is really about expanding your consciousness. So you know your value, you know your worth.
And the question again is, do you want to experience sacred relationships as a significant support for your own transformation? This is what we are really wanting to build, is through sacred relationships. That is your ability to move through and really deepen your transformation. You'll have another buddy, a person that you can safely work with, to advance, to practice all of your practices with, to work together. And we really encourage people to consider bringing a sacred friend into these practices, into the workshop. So Julie, do you want to talk about the workshop that we're offering, the masterclass?
Sure can. So let me just pull it up. So the screen is going to change to something. Just bear with me for a moment. There we go. So we have a day put aside. It's Sunday, October 15th from 11 a.m. to 6:30 Eastern Time, where we have a full day planned of deepening your experience, understanding of working with these practices. And yeah, sometimes they feel really simple, but sometimes they're so simple in our mind that we forget to use them. And you really experience today in using them this profound shift. So we invite you to come, to join us, to leave behind all the old ways of being in relationships so you can enjoy what a sacred relationship is. We want you to build confidence and presence, right? And have ease in your body when communicating. So there's no anxiety, there's no tension, there's no spewing of words. We want to help you remain attuned, right? Attuned to and receptive to conversations and what it is you really want in your life. These practices are going to help you build empathy, resonance, and depth in your conversations. Experience more comfort and ease in your body. I'm sure you've noticed the shift, right? Just as we drop down into womb space instead of head bubble, it's more comfortable. There's less anxiety, and all of that starts to kind of settle in. Losing getting rid of, dropping judgment and having more compassion, right? You're not wondering, you're really realizing. Slowing down the inner critic and negative thinking, right? I think I had a train wreck of those. It was like constantly. And that these practices help and train you to really let go of that inner critic and negative thinking and to attract the positive attention you want in relationships. And the full day, we have extended our bonus. If you sign up, it was before September 15th, but we were doing this bonus call today. So you have 24 hours to sign up. And the first 10 who sign up are put into a draw to receive a free coaching session with Jane and I. And that has a $250 value. And you can call either one of us to register. So it is Sunday, October 15th from 11 to 6:30, 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And it will be a deep dive into what we've been sharing with you today.
Yeah, and so the other thing that's so amazing about doing this together, right? How just ask yourself, what support do I have to really learn practices that are going to help move me towards the sacred relationships that I really want? And am I in a community of people that are like-minded and that want to do this transformation work together? Just as we put you into those breakout rooms, you're going to have opportunities to do that in this workshop together. And in future offerings, we're going to go deeper and deeper and have lots of practice and interaction together, so that these practices are not just something that you hear about, but you actually get the chance to integrate them with the support of like-minded women. And, you know, Julie and I have over 30 years collective experience in spiritual and personal development. So we've got lots that we want to offer you. We've gone through so much of this ourselves, and we know that these practices work. So what if you do nothing about this now, and you just go back to your life? You go back to the distance in your relationships that you're wanting to change. I leave that with you just to think about. We have this beautiful offer. We're so happy to work with you. And we thank you so much for coming tonight. And for some of you, you've come several times. We really appreciate you. So we'll leave it with you to think about. What is it that you really want? And what do you need to do in order to find the relationships that are calling you?
And I
So-
posted our phone numbers in the chat. For those of you that would like to call Jane or myself, I know many of you already have my phone number. So please feel free to give either one of us a call if you have any questions. We really are creating a movement of sacred relationships, and we want to break those barriers of anxiety when speaking, of being able to speak your truth comfortably, of not having any obstacle between you and another being that you wish to have a beautiful friendship or sacred relationship with. And these practices really do begin to chisel away and remove them through awareness, through practice. And it takes practice. And how many of you practice when you're alone, left to your own devices? Do you actually take the things that you learn and put them into place? right? A lot of times we learn something, we have a really good experience. We go home, yeah, that sounded really good. Oh yeah, I forgot. And when we develop these workshops and create these workshops, it's so you can really have more experience of these practices that will help you want to do them more. So those things that are in the way are no longer in the way. It doesn't put a chokehold on creating safety, creating connection, creating depth, creating sacred, right? And having a relationship and having a sacred relationship is very different. One is like your head bubble, and the other one is the deep womb space, and
So,
that big energetic shift.
Jules, I just wonder if we should just open it up to everyone if there's any questions.
Yeah, sure.
About the day. We're going a little bit over time, but anyone who has to go, feel free to go. We're grateful that you came. And those of you who want to stay and just hear a little bit of the questions and answers, that would be great too. Bye, Shar. What's your YouTube channel? Mahogany, it is
Synergy of Sacred Soul Sisters.
Synergy of Sacred Soul Sisters.
Yeah.
So we're open to hear your reactions to the practices, to any of them, or any more questions about, you know, what is it that we're offering? What's it going to be like coming into the workshop? What is standing in the way of you really stepping into your sacred relationships? Do you want to learn the practices to really move you into receiving the beautiful benefits of making these deeper connections?